Hello princesses! Today I'm going to be talking about the Bobbi Brown Intensive Skin Serum Foundation. I picked this up when I was in Lyon on holiday and I have the shade 00 Alabaster, which is pretty much not sold in New Zealand at all, although I did see it on ASOS. Why is it that everything that I pretty much bought back that I felt like that I couldn't get in New Zealand before is now on ASOS at the moment? Like, why did I bother? I don't know. I walked past a Bobbi Brown store in Lyon and I decided to go in and see what they had in store, and I was extremely surprised to see that they had quite a few different foundations in Alabaster. This is the one that I was recommended by the makeup assistant. What would you call those? The people who are selling the makeup salesperson? Consultant? And I have to say that it is an interesting choice, and when she put it on I was like, yes, I'll buy it, yay, because I'm really impressionable and I'm really bad at falling for sales trick. Even though I've been a salesperson for about like 6 years and I should know better, but still. I bought it anyway, and it's probably like all of the things that I don't look for in the foundation, but they didn't really tell me that because I feel like there was a language barrier. So with the Bobbi Brown product descriptions, they are in different sections. So the first section is what is it? With its active skin energizing complex featuring cordyceps and artemia, the silky serum foundation recharges skin's appearance while providing an instant luminous finish. Powered with a peptide that I cannot pronounce and UVA/UVB protection to defend against the environmental stresses, the formula helps prevent collagen damage and fight the visible signs of aging. Who is it for? For anyone who wants the treatment benefits the serum, combined with the flawless skin tone correct coverage of Bobbi Brown foundations. Ideal for normal to dry skin. There's another part that's like, why is it different, how to use, and then ingredients, but I'm not going to sit here all day reading up product claims, so let's get on with the review. So the packaging of this foundation is really elegant. It comes in a black glass bottle with a dropper top. However, the dropper top is pretty bad and it doesn't pick very much foundation up at all, if it picks anything up, so I'm pretty unimpressed with the quality of the dropper top, to be honest, for such an extensive foundation. I have the shade 00 Alabaster, which is very fair and kind of has neutral undertones. The Alabaster shade in Bobbi Brown is usually a little bit more warm toned, so I was really genuinely quite surprised that this one wasn't super warm toned. When I bought it I was in Lyon and they did try it on my skin, but because I was so tan I couldn't tell if it was just too pale for me or if it was the wrong tone, and they did tell me that it was warm toned, but looking at it next to my other foundations I would totally disagree with that. So I'm going to put some foundation from the dropper top on the back of my hand, and that is all that comes out. It's a tiny amount. There also isn't a scraper top on the inside of the bottle, so when you actually put the dropper top back in it just gets really messy, so that's a bit of a shame, but it's okay. And what I'm going to do is, because it is so liquidy, I'm going to use a foundation brush to spread it out and then a cushion puff to blend that in. So I'm using an Etude House flat paddle brush. I just got this free with my double lasting foundation and I never use it for anything because I really dislike paddle brushes. I think that they just leave my skin looking shocking and streaky. I don't understand how anybody can get these to work really nicely, but that's just me personally. So this foundation is kind of annoying to apply. The reason why I'm using a flat paddle brush rather than just using a sponge is that because it is such a thin textured liquid and the coverage is so light, if I just use a sponge I have no coverage on my skin whatsoever. It just looks like I've put nothing on. So I do need to put a bit of a thicker layer using this brush and then use the cushion puff to blend it in. The funny thing as well though is that the foundation actually just literally sinks into my skin, like it starts to absorb. It's really bizarre, like I've never had anything quite that interesting before. So now that I've applied half of the foundation to my face, I'm going to use the cushion puff to just blend away very lightly those harsh edges from the brush. So I'm just really lightly tapping it into my skin. So this is what the foundation looks like on half of my face. I have got sunscreen on my neck, so it's a little bit more pale, so it does match up a little bit better, because if I don't put something on my neck it just makes my neck look so yellow in comparison. So that is the foundation on one half versus the other half. So I'm going to do the other half of my face and then I'm going to zoom you in to show you what it looks like. So this is what a full face of the foundation looks like. You can see that it has a very healthy dewy glow, so I would definitely need to set this with a powder because especially in the center of my face it does look quite dewy, like to the point where it makes my eyes look a little bit like hollow, which is really strange. The colour is not so bad when my neck is a little bit more paled out, so I'm uncertain if I just need to lose a little bit more of my tan or if it's actually the wrong shade for me entirely. So I think I'll wait a couple of months to see if my skin pales out a little bit more. But it has very, very light coverage. It is supposed to be a natural coverage foundation, so I'll zoom you in. So this is what my skin looks like up close. You can see all of the freckles around my eyes, scarring, and then you can see a couple pimples as well. So that's a really beautiful cystic pimple, yay! And then these ones are now just scars, but they were pimples a couple of days ago, so you can see that there's a bit of dry textured skin around each of those little spots, so that isn't super covered up, but it's not too apparent. And my forehead is really, really textured at the moment. I don't know what's going on with it, but you can see like all of the tiny, tiny little bumps. So it definitely doesn't cover any of that up, but it also makes my wrinkles look a little bit less apparent, so you can kind of see them there, but because of the texture of the foundation they're a little bit more hidden than they normally would be. So I'm going to do the rest of my makeup and then go on about my day. Today I'm going to be having the foundation on for approximately 12 hours in total, which I'm not looking forward to because it doesn't have the best longevity, so I'll check in a little bit later. So this foundation has been on for just under 5 hours at this point. I can see a lot of cakiness around my nose, which I'm not liking, and the area around where my pimples are is really dry, which is not great either. But so far my skin isn't looking too bad. I do look very glowy, so still even after I powdered with the Laura Mercier powder, it doesn't really reduce the amount of glow, which I do like. But you can also see that around my eyes I've got a lot of shadowing from my eye. From the mascara, but because the foundation is so like dewy, that's kind of just what happens, like when the mascara gets a little bit, I don't know, damp from my skin. So I need to clean up around my eyes, and then I'm going to go to work and I will check in with you guys after work. So the foundation has been on for 8.5 hours now. It's extremely oily in my T-zone, especially around my nose. From a distance it does look just like a little bit dewy, but when you are a little bit closer to me you can definitely tell. You can also see where my glasses have been, so they've made quite big dents in the foundation. Around my nose looks really, really cakey, and the same with around my chin, and you can see a little circle there where it's rubbed off entirely. At 8 hours I think it is still manageable, but it's not something that I would choose for a very long day. But I will check in with you guys after I finish dancing tonight, which will be around about 12 hours. So this is what the foundation looks like after 12 hours of wear. All of the coverage has pretty much gone around here, around my chin, on my cheeks. It pretty much just looks like my skin, but a little bit oily. So you can see that my T-zone is very, very shiny, around here is shiny. And yeah, you can see all of the redness as well, so it's kind of like not wearing anything at all. You can kind of see it breaking up in little dots around my mouth, which is really bizarre. So up around here and around there as well, but you can also see where it's totally rubbed off around my nose, so there's a big chunk missing there. Glasses marks, of course, and the same with my chin. Obviously the coverage hasn't come back, so that is a full bald spot there. This is definitely not a foundation that I would recommend if you're going to be wearing it all day and you have slightly oily skin. My skin is pretty normal at the moment, so I wouldn't consider it oily, but yeah, it's just not a product I would recommend for that specific purpose. So I am so on the fence with this foundation. There are aspects that I do like and aspects that I really don't like. So let's start with some of the good things. It does look really beautiful on the skin, so I'm wearing it at the moment. My skin looks luminous, it looks very natural, and it just looks like a little bit of extra foundation but not a super heavy amount. Colour, while it is a little bit more neutral than I like, is not too bad. So again, wearing it today, I have a little bit of sunscreen on my neck to make it a little bit more pale, so you can see my hands look a little bit tan. It is more neutral than the Alabaster normally is. I've tried the Alabaster shade in a couple of different formulas and they usually run really yellow toned, so closer to NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia, but this one in particular is really neutral toned, and I don't know why, but I did read a couple of other reviews of people that have the Alabaster shade and they all said the same thing. It definitely runs more neutral than it does warm, which is a shame. What else do I like? I'm really having to think about this one. It makes my skin feel good. It does have that serum-like effect. It's kind of like a BB cream. Basically the same thing as like my Misha BB cream. When I take it off my skin after the end of the day, my skin does feel nicer. Is it more special than a BB cream? No, not really. So now onto the things that I don't like. So one, the colour is more neutral than I would like, which I wasn't told when I purchased it. I was like, I like Alabaster, it's really warm toned, that's what I want, blah blah blah. And they're like, yeah, sure, have this one. I would say that it is very light coverage. So I have some pimples here and here, which you can totally see. I've got scarring here, I've got a lot of texture on my forehead, and that's all totally visible because it has, for me, I would say, a very natural finish. It has terrible longevity. It really doesn't last very long and it looks so shiny. Like past the point of being dewy, it looks oily. So it's not something that I would recommend for any princesses that have oily skin or normal to oily skin. I just have normal skin, so sometimes I have slightly dry skin, sometimes I have slightly oily skin. It depends on the environmental factors and things like that. So it's probably not a foundation I would have recommended to myself. I would recommend this really only for people who have dry skin. It's also a little bit difficult to apply due to the really thin texture and the very sheer coverage. I really have to apply this with a foundation brush and then blend it in using a sponge. If I use sponges, I just end up with no coverage whatsoever and I use so much of the product and it is expensive. You know, this is not a cheap foundation. I think I bought it for like, I feel like it was like 48 euros. So I don't want everything to be soaking into my sponge. Like that's just kind of dumb. The packaging is also not that great. The dropper top really doesn't pick up much product at all and I need to pop it in a couple of times to get enough product out. For something that's so expensive, I would have thought that the dropper top would be a little bit more effective. So even though it may seem like I have a fair amount of negative points for this one, they're not really all negative. So things like it has sheer coverage. Yeah, that is negative for me at the moment because I've got some things to cover. But if my skin is having a good day and I want something with sheer coverage, that's great. The longevity, I think that for me, it's a negative again because my skin is getting too oily. But if you have dry skin, it's probably going to look really nice on you. I don't really say it enough, but with reviews, really it is personal preference. And I feel like I've been saying personal preference so many times because I've been doing my skincare and beauty 101, but it really is personal preference. No one has the same skin type and no one has the same skin concerns. So if you have neutral skin, you've got dry skin, but it's pretty perfect, you don't have too much to cover, this would be a great foundation for you. Conversely, if you've got oily skin that's either very cool toned or very warm toned and you've got a lot of scars to cover, this is not a foundation I'd recommend for you. So I hope that gives you guys a little bit of information about the Bobbi Brown foundation. I'm on the fence about whether I should keep it or whether I should sell it on. Tell me what you guys think, but thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!